Spears and Steinberg.
You know what the fuck it is?
Aries and Andy, Jew and the Jerk.
You know it's time to get this work.
The real raw, gutter, uncut cocaine. No political corrections.
Always sleep.
Fuck being awoke. We discuss politics and jokes.
Scribe, we lit.
There's levels to this shit. Before you was sucking on your mama's tit.
Aries Spears don't give a fuck.
We talk about race a lot, racism,
Sexism.
Much love to my loyal bitch bag holders.
Rollers, clip loaders.
We got them in the folders.
The whole world on our shoulders.
Spears and Steinberg.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Hello. Oh shit, dude. It's fucking a little chilly on my side. I'm up, y'all. It's fucking 7 a.m. Conflicting, confusing schedules between me and my Hymietown friend. But here we are. Before we dive in, real quick, I want to give a special Boys to Men. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. Rest in peace to a New York City comedy staple. Caroline's on Broadway is no more.
No, it ended in the on the first New Year's.
So if there's anybody that's ever been in New York and has said, hey, where's a great place to go see some stand-up? There's a bunch of options, but I think Caroline's was probably the Madison Square Garden of comedy clubs, especially for where it was located, right in the heart of Times Square.
Yeah.
And Dave Attell closed out the last show, and it has been replaced by Susan Sarandon's Ping Pong Bar.
Yeah. It's
which
gonna be.
Screams comedy anyway.
It's gonna be.
It's gonna be.
Yeah.
I guess the rent was just too high and business wasn't booming.
Business was back, but it's not the same. And, you know, she did it for a long time.
Caroline's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, Louis Ferranda was the guy, I think, at this point who was running it.
Yeah, but I just gave you the name. It was time, I guess. You know, you want to... I think it's going to be hard to make... It's hard to make money. It's hard to make money, period. And then they survived COVID, but I don't know.
Yeah, but for that location, man, right in the heartbeat of Times Square where you got tourists and then I'm sure some New York natives, that felt like a can't lose.
It's a big space, man.
I know, but goddamn.
It's a big space.
It ain't like, you know, comics in New York that felt tucked away in the meatpacking district or what's another, like, you know, Dangerfields where you got to go somewhere that's...
It's closed too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was just, that didn't even get any celebratory send off. It was, I think it was. I think it was.
You know why? You know why it didn't?
Yeah, I do.
It didn't get no respect. I tell you, hey, close the door. I don't even get no respect. It's like my wife's legs when I want sex. She just closes without warning. Ooh.
That's exactly what happened.
My penis don't get no respect. Ooh. All right.
But yeah, so I mean, the landscape is changing, man. COVID did it. This thing before that was going to happen though. It was having a hard time before any problems with COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, it is changed out here though, man. It has really changed.
And you know what's wild, man? Bill Maher. Real Time with Bill Maher just came back on TV. They were on hiatus. I think they just did their first episode. They're back now. And Bill Maher was talking to somebody and he mentioned COVID and he described it as the forever flu. And of course the audience was laughing. So what a job that motherfucker did.
Yeah.
Jesus. If COVID were a fucking 1940s movie, it'd be like Bela Lugosi's Dracula or Frankenstein and the fucking... Everybody should come after it with pitchforks and torches for what it's caused.
Yeah. Last time I seen pitchforks and torches, though, they were marching on... and telling Jews will not replace us. So they had...
Oh, well, there you go.
They had a different idea.
Jews were the Bela Lugosi of the time.
Times.
Okay, folks, without further ado, Andy brought this movie to my attention. It's on Netflix. Y'all should check it out. And I got to say before we get into the details, listen, you've heard me break Andy's balls a little bit in terms of what he likes with quirkiness and certain things. Sometimes he and I are directly on the same page. That's just the man in us, man code. The obvious shit, the Tulsa Kings, the mayor of Kingstowns, and yada, yada, yada. But then every now and then, Andy's got his particular taste. And when he first mentioned this to me, I went, oh, this was one of those where I just went, okay, what the fuck is this? And how did you describe it to me?
I said it's a movie that I think I liked, but I'm not sure.
Right, but I thought I at some point, either I asked you, and assuming it was a comedy, or I know I used the word quirky, but did you say it was a comedy, or did I ask you?
No, you must ask me because it's not a comedy, but it's a comedy.
Yeah, okay. But there's comedy elements in it.
Comedy elements are definitely a part of it, but it's not a comedy.
Oh, yeah, I quickly found out.
Yeah.
It's called The Menu on Netflix, guys. The Menu. And it's not even on Netflix. My bad. I tried to find it on Netflix and couldn't.
Showtime.
Okay, I had to go to I went to Amazon Prime.
Okay, Amazon Prime has it too.
Yeah. And how would you describe this? Because I'm like, what the fuck? Is this a comedy or a thriller? Because it felt like it even started out with a comedic tone. But then, man, shit went left quick.
Yeah. Before you say that, before we get into what it is, judging by what you just said earlier about me, is this quirky? Is it a quirky?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't quirky. I think that I assumed that if it was a comedy, that's what it was going to be.
I've just heard, just so that you understand on why I brought this to your attention. I had heard about it, and it's something I've heard about it, but it was never like I heard about it from a lot of people. I heard about it from certain people that like certain movies that are a higher caliber, let's put it that way, like, movies that get awards. And so I wasn't really rushing out to go see it. And then when I got a chance to watch it, when I saw it come up on my able to access it through streaming, I was like, I got to go check it out. They said it was good. And then to watch it, even when it was over, I was like, I'm glad I put the time in, but I was like, I don't know that I liked it. But I didn't know that I didn't like it.
For me, it was a what the fuck did I just watch, but not in a bad way.
Right. That's a better way to put it. Okay, so now that we got that, so that people understand, let's go ahead and start at the beginning.
But before we even do that, because since I mentioned the word quirky, there was an email that I got, and I have to jump into this really quick. It's like a little bit of a go back, call back, where somebody really wrote, and they said, dude, I love when you guys were talking about Woody Allen and you did the Mike Tyson neuroses. But his comment was, instead of making shit up, you should have said what Mike really said, but as the Woody Allen neuroses character. And of course, remember that famous rant he went on during the Lennox Lewis, pre-fight. And when the conference, the word escapes me, but when the fighters get together to hype the fight, and of course they get into that brawl, and the guy in the back yells, "Put him in a straitjacket," and Mike loses it. He said, "Put your mother in a straitjacket," and all that shit he said. So I was just thinking, because I didn't think about that, but when I thought about it, I went, as violent and as homophobic, but still macho as that rant was, and hearing, Mike Tyson say it, "I'll fuck you in your ass, white boy. You'll fuck you in front of everybody. I'll make fuck you till you let me, faggot." Because it's Mike Tyson in that voice, it screamed funny while terrifying. Yeah. But then I'm thinking, to have Mike with the neuroses say those exact same words, it's the same effect. It's terrifying, but it's less terrifying and more funny because of the character. So yeah, I thought about it in my head, I'm going, put your mother in a straitjacket. I'll fuck you in your ass in front of everybody until you love me. I'm going to call you a faggot. You're a faggot. Yes. I'll come say it in my face. You would be a punk white boy. That's what I would call you. You're a punk, and I'll fuck you in front of everybody. You homosexual. So
homosexual at the end, right there is
right. But I just thought that tickled me. Okay, back to the menu.
That character's going to live on.
I think so. I think so.
That's a sketch waiting. That's
yes, it absolutely it is.
It's a full blown. That's a sketch.
If I did it back, if I could have done it back when I was on Mad, dude. Of course, I would have been dressed as Tyson. Not necessarily in what he really wore, because it's more comedically funny if you see me in the black trunks with boxing gloves on and no shirt, and as I'm
the Woody glasses.
Doing it.
The Woody glasses.
And what?
The Woody glasses.
Oh, and the glasses. But I'm waving what is my hand in a boxing glove, and with the neuroses, and I'm grabbing my balls as I say, "I'm gonna fuck you, you homosexual." That just would have screamed visual comedy. But anyway, so dude, so folks, basically, here's the concept, right? A group of prestigious people. I don't know if they got summoned or somehow were exclusively picked.
They were chosen by him, by this
world-renowned
eccentric chef.
Eccentric chef played by Ralph Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes?
Yeah,
is it Ray Fiennes?
I think it's Ray Fiennes, yeah.
Played by Ray Fiennes. And I'm trying to give him.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes. What am I doing? Yeah, Ralph Fiennes. Sorry.
And I want to give him a little bit of gravitas or gravita. It's either gravitas or gravita.
I already fucked up Ralph, so I'm not saying anything.
So you ain't fucking with gravita. And he's I'm trying to think of a combination. I don't want to say, what's my man, the chef that's always angry, the white dude who's yelling at motherfuckers.
Chef Ramsay, is it Ramsay?
Chef Ramsay. He's not that. He's elegant. There's an elegance about this guy. So gravitas, whatever. So and there's this mystery about him, this air about him. But anyway, this group of people are all selected to this private island that you have to take a boat to. And he's just very meticulous, detailed about what he does with his food. And there's this one character named Tyler, who you guys will know from the X-Men movies, the younger generation of X-Men movies, where he plays
the Beast, right?
Beast.
Yeah.
He plays Beast. And this dude is he got a hard on in a major good way for this chef. So they go to this island, and there's like several courses that they're being served. And each course is heavily detailed. And I love how in the movie, they'll say first course, and then there'll be like a little written detail about what's in it. And I remember I was looking at this, and I was thinking to myself, in this first course, they were served algae and caviar. And I just thought to myself, thank God some of the tastiest shit is the most horrible shit. Burgers and fried chicken. Because I never even knew that algae was edible. But I certainly knew about caviar, and Andy and I kind of touched upon this when we talked on the podcast. Caviar is extremely expensive, and it's fish eggs. And you talked about the texture and blah, blah, blah. And listen, I'm all for fine dining. And Lord knows, between, Mr. Chow's, Ruth Chris, Del Frisco's, expensive steakhouses. I don't mind spending money for great food, but it's got to be great food. Fuck all that spending high-end money for shit that's just thought of as exquisite. Not to mention, it don't really get you full. So I was like the chick that he was with, Tyler, who was like at the end of the movie, I want a motherfucking cheeseburger.
Right.
And the other guys, the trio of guys, the black guy, the Asian guy, and the white guy, who was just simply wanting bread.
Right. There's no bread at the beginning. Everybody's wondering where the bread is. Also, just before we go further, let's make sure that we include the key to this movie and to understanding it is that everybody is exclusive. It's an exclusive event. Everybody's invited for this dinner. This one, you have to be invited. And the guy that was the Beast, he brought someone that wasn't invited because his date canceled. So she is not part of the what the chef was expecting. Mm-hmm. And he's so meticulous. They know about each person that's coming. So
right,
that's a problem.
And again, I'm watching this, and because early on there were some comedic beats, I'm going, okay, this must be a little bit of a quirky comedy. But then as it kept going deeper and deeper, I was going, this ain't no motherfucking comedy. Yes, there's comedy elements in it, but once it starts getting where it's going, this is on some, edge of your seat shit. These motherfuckers was crazy.
Yeah.
There's the hostess who meets them on the island, played by this little Asian chick. This bitch was terrifying to me from the very beginning.
She was?
She had creepy, intense vibes from the very beginning.
It's Hong Chu? I think I don't want to mess up this name because it's going to make me sound like such an asshole.
It made sense to me, her last name Chu, because she looked like she chew your balls off.
Yeah, it's Hong Chu. Just real quick, and Nicholas Hoult is the Beast guy, and Ann Taylor-Joy is it's not Ann, it's Anna Taylor-Joy, who was really great in the Queen's Gambit. So those are like the main characters that you have going on there.
Oh, John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo's playing the movie star. He's one of the people invited. There's an array of people.
Judith Light from the mother from Who's the Boss,
and also the judge, one of the judges on Law and Order. So she's always constantly appearing in that.
And I don't know the lady's name, but you probably got it in front of you. She was the tall, scary lawyer from Ozark. Who represented the cartel.
Is that Janet McTeer? I think it's Janet.
I'm not sure, but it's a solid fucking cast.
Yeah, it's a really good cast. Not everybody is like the most well-known, but they're all solid actors. So,
I listen, I don't have a whole lot of notes, so I guess I can dive right into this. So eventually what happens is they're all there to be killed. So while they think they're there for this, wonderful cuisine experience, they're ultimately there all to be killed. And I think the first time it goes left is when Judith Light's husband in the movie decides he wants to go and they won't let him leave. So he tells the Asian lady, look, I'll handle this. And she goes, with which hand? Left or right? Which hand do you want to handle this? And then they eventually hold him down and wanted, and then I'm actually fucking up real quick. So they eventually slice his pinky finger off. But what really makes it go left is when the sous chef blows his brains out as one of the courses. And
that's when you go. That's when you're like, when you're first watching the movie and it's all dialogue. It's a dialogue heavy. That's what it's about. It could be a play. I mean, you're sitting there, you're watching them, and you're going, where's this movie going? And then the comedy starts to dissipate, and it's just a lot of dialogue, and you're going, what's going on? And then that chef, and what was amazing about it, when you're watching it, and I caught it, and I thought it was kind of weird. The chef has complete respect of everyone that's working for him, so he claps his hands when he's ready for the next course. And he claps his hands, and then then you don't see the kitchen anymore because it's an open kitchen. So you see the whole kitchen. You don't see the kitchen. There's just these blinds were wheeled behind the chef as he's talking to the chef and then the sous chef. And when it goes as Ari said, when it goes left, it's because he puts a bullet in his head, and you see all the brains go onto the back of the of this draper, whatever partition. And as soon as it happens, the other chefs come out from behind and move the partition, and it's back to service.
Yeah, but even before that, as there and every course before it comes out is a big presentation. So before the dude blows his own brains out by putting a gun in his mouth, they lay a big tarp down on the floor, a white tarp, complete with these flowers and shit. And I wish I could remember what the name of the course was, because it was tied to, when you hear the name, him express something. I think it was. I don't remember the sous chef's name, but I'm gonna make one up. Let's say his name was Jeff. It was called Jeff's Mess.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So it was tied to what he was about to do, which was unexpected to all the guests. Matter of fact, even after he blows his brains out, they take a couple beats wondering if this is just theater. Was this real? So yeah, the guy blows his brains out. He purposely falls back on the tarp, which they set out. The other cooks come out, roll him up like a fucking carpet being moved, and just remove him from the scene. And like Andy said, everything goes back to normal. And then from there, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And this Tyler character, I was trying to figure out, because that moment where Ralph Fiennes is describing, or better yet, he's describing the elements of this island, is using the elements of the island to make the food and the cuisine. And it's almost like you can see the intensity on this character, Tyler's face. Like, he's basically saying that they call athletes artists, but at the end of the day, if you put it in perspective, they're just guys who play with inflatable balls. Where Tyler breaks down how they handle life's raw materials to make you eat naturally what the earth provides. And as he's given the speech, they cut to Tyler, who's like mouthing what Ralph Fiennes is saying, like he knows this speech by heart. He's heard it before. And I'm just like, this dude, even when things start to go awry, he's unfazed. He seems to be the only one unfazed. Like, this nigga is ejaculating to this chef. He's that impressed.
Yeah, he's completely enamored with the fact that he would have liked to have cooked. He doesn't have obviously he knows about it, but doesn't have the skills. And
I love that moment when Ralph decides to put him in the kitchen, and he makes the lamb chops and what he makes with the mushrooms and the shallots.
Yeah. And
the way they describe it is bullshit.
Yeah. You know who my favorite character in this whole thing is, though? And I just wanted to see if you picked up on this guy. His name is actually Peter Gras, I think. He's the sommelier. He's the one who keeps bringing the wine out. And they have wine for every course. Right. But he never faces. He's always so happy to describe the wine after every death, after every horrible moment. He's still like, and this is from our certain vineyard, and not just the vineyard, only one row of vines. Only one row of vines. And he's so pleased to tell them about it. And then he pours the wine.
Well, it felt like once they let the audience into what is happening, the whole fucking thing is like a cult.
Right.
They all take on a zombie cult-like persona.
And you understand the cult mentality when the sous chef is going to go ahead and take himself out. Will you ever be as good? Will you want to be a great chef? Yes. Will you ever be a great chef? No. You know. So
right. You want my life.
Right. That's right. And so that's where you get that this, and the fact that he can clap and everybody just turns, stops, and yes, chef, and
it's simultaneously like yes, chef, like they're in the military.
But if you ever worked at a really high end kitchen, I mean, it's pretty close.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, not totally throughout service, but the yes chef, when the chef is describing the night specials, you better be like on point, like on a high end. Yes, chef. Yeah, the chef. If chef says anything, if you're criticized in the kitchen, yes, chef. It's always spoken to. Yes, chef. And everybody's chef. You refer to everybody as chef, but when the actual chef, the guy, the man in charge, is telling you or criticizing you, it's like military style respect. Yes, chef. So
they really like, and I mean, obviously for movies things get kind of exaggerated. But you're saying like in real life, they kind of hold these people to like for lack of better words, a king or queen or royalty like persona?
Look at everyone that you see on television that's the chef. I mean, they're at a level of, to get to that level, to be a true chef, that this is what you do. This is how you live. I don't want to use Anthony Bourdain in this for an example in this movie, but look how we look at him as this higher entity. And it's this, there's depending on the chef, and a lot of chefs, though, there's a spiritual journey that happens when you become a chef to how you break down your cooking, what makes you that person. And so, yeah, there is, they do look at them. They're obviously the rock stars of the kitchen, but they're true rock stars.
You know, anything that falls under the umbrella of art, especially if you're an artist, even if you're not that specifically that kind of artist, it's still, you know, a performance. So anything that to me falls under the umbrella of a performance to which your goal is to please people, entertain people. As an artist, you feel like you should have a respect for. And certainly I know about eating. I like to eat, as most people. But by no means would I ever consider myself a cook or any kind of artist that has anything to do with pre-eating. But I will say I do see it in terms of there's an artistry to it. My question to you is, where would you rate chefs in regard to artistry? Would you put them up there with painters, like how you have such a high esteem for Basquiat? Would you put them up there with some of the greatest artists in terms of when you think the best artist in football, Tom Brady, the best artist in basketball, Jordan, boxing, Ali, acting, Pacino, De Niro, Denzel? Where would you place them in the realm of great artists?
And that.
How important are they?
That's That's a really good question. How important are they? I mean, do we survive? Well, I guess art is very, like, first of all, you talk about this a lot, being things that are subjective, and art itself is subjective. I mean, all facets of art. Do you need artists? I mean, really, I mean, if we weren't at this speed of this, going at a speed through life that we go through it now, where we're social media, living in cities, these big, would we need that? Because when you used to live in an area that had art and beauty and food was grown, you grew your food yourself, you know, so that you could survive. Did you need that? You didn't need a chef. You were a chef. You were planting, you were growing. I think as we move further away from the earth, you need these artists. Do you know what I mean? Am I making sense of what I'm saying?
I feel like technically, no, we don't need them, because at the end of the day, you know, if the goal to survive is simply to eat,
yeah,
we don't need a 5-star world-class chef. We could simply eat garbage. And even though I guess the irony in that is people going, well, garbage will kill you.
Right.
So, but at the end of the day, if the goal is to eat to live, do we need the artist that can make the pretty dish with the garnish on the plate and make it look like a museum exhibit? No.
But
just like we don't technically need singers and comedians and to watch ball games to live, but you do.
You do, but what I'm saying is we move further from the earth, like from us touching the earth, which I know I might be sounding hyperbolic or way out of the way when I'm saying it. But when we were the ones that had to grow our own food, cook our food, you might have lived miles away from anybody, or for entertainment, that someone in your camp or your home would have sang. You know, somebody played the piano at home. You know, as technology has grown, we had other people come into our house that were better piano players. So now we listen to the radio, and then television happened. And so now you could see someone who was more talented. We've curated this part of life where we brought this in to where there's these specialty people that are so good at it. But there was a point where we were in charge of this at one time. Like I'm saying, the chef is talking about on the island and the food, but you used to live in your property and you would have a garden and you would grow your food. I mean, you had to remember this word that we don't say that much anymore, butcher. You might not have slaughtered your cattle, but at one point you did, but there was a point where you went to a special place that, would pick out, cuts of meat that you like to make that would go with your food. If you go back, even if you want to go back like wine, technically, as you would develop wine for food, the wine developed around the food that was available to that area. So that's why we have all these different wines from different regions because of the food that was served. So wine developed around it. So we did that without having chefs. We did that without having these people that we hold on this high plateau. But for us now,
but when did it become considered an art form?
I think when we no longer participated the way that we did in our product that we consumed. Because what you said is eating is to survive, but we have manufactured food. We have Doritos. I'm not knocking Doritos, but Doritos is not real food. It's chemicals. It's made. There's powders that's put on a tortilla chip that's not even real corn. I mean, it's grown. It's not a traditional corn. So we eat, but let me rephrase it. We consume food because we do it because we need calories, energy. To get back to where we were at one time, we didn't realize it, but we were the ones that brought the food from the earth and we made this good food. These chefs are really going back and they're really craftsmen to bring us back to some roots and some things that, when you talk about caviar, that was discovered a long time ago. People ate it, now, but how you put it together now is different. It isn't something that some fishermen that live off of, a big fishing village would have as a specialty. So and chefs were able to bring food from other regions to wherever they live by being able to put them on ships in the space. Remember, there was a spice trade. Spice used to be currency in the world. You used to have ships that would bring spices, and they would trade them all over the world, and that was currency. Spice was the currency at one time. So it makes sense that these particular people grew out of this industry, grew out of that, and where these people that were in charge of. A chef was someone who could really take and capture these meals from all over the world, and that's why travel is important to chefs. So yes, they are necessary for our connection to the earth, but are they necessary? Could we live without them? We could live without a lot of things that we live with, but it brings us closer, I think, to our. I think it's almost a memory of our original roots, even the art. You used to go outside and it was beautiful. That was art.
Right.
That was a long rant.
No, I needed to ask it because there is a beauty and an artistry to something that you can look at for half a second and then devour like it didn't exist. It's like again, people that bottle, what is it? Whatever that alcohol is. What is it?
Louis
Trez. How much? That's like what? Like 10,000 a bottle or something?
I don't know what it is.
I know it ain't that much, but I'm just saying it's thousands of dollars a bottle.
But you're also paying for it because it comes in that crystal bottle.
Which once you drink all the alcohol, you do what with?
You can refill. You can use it as a decanter. It's I forgot what crystal maker it is, but that's another artist. And that's those two artists, the crystal maker, and then now the finest cognac is going into this bottle. So, I mean,
I've said this before. I just always thought the bottom line is it gets you drunk. And whether it's you paying, whatever, several thousands of dollars for that bottle, or whether you go to the liquor store and pay $15, at the end of the day, you consume enough of both. They both do the same fucking thing.
Well, that is the thing. When I go out to a place and I hear someone order a Henny and Coke, I'm like, you could have put any kind of cognac into that Coke. It's going to taste pretty much the same because the Coke becomes the flavor.
Right.
So you wasted, you paid twice as much for that drink than you had to. That's my thing.
Right. So I'm just saying with the food thing, it's like, yes, as an artist, I want to respect the art of what you do when you're good at what you do. And it looks pretty. You can take a picture of it. Now you can put it on Instagram or your social media page. But at the end of the day, and I think even in the movie, Ralph Fiennes, I forget how he articulated it, but he basically said in a nutshell, as pretty as the food looks, it all turns to shit in your stomach.
Yeah.
So it's all being consumed. So it's like, yay, pretty plate. Oh, look at that. That's wonderful. And then gulp. You eat the shit like you would eat Twinkies and you shit it out.
Yeah, but there's one other part to this. How many times you go to a restaurant, like you see something on TV or you see an ad for a restaurant, right? And you see the food that they put in the ad and you go there and you order it. It doesn't look anything like it, or it looks close to it, but not with any refinement. When you go to a fine restaurant, to the chef-driven restaurant where the chef is actually outside, not doing the cooking, but has trained everyone in their section to create everything exactly to his taste, his specification, to his plating, you're getting that. And that's the difference too, because it is on that level. And that's what a true chef, that those kind of restaurants are to give you. Is not an interpretation of what the chef said, but what the chef is actually created. Because that's why you don't see the chef back there doing the cooking. He's already cooked it. He's already made it. Now he's trained each one of those. Each section is to present exactly what that chef wants. So to get it back into the movie, everything that's going to be done in this restaurant is exactly what that chef wanted. And that's what the movie is giving. This is the chef's grand idea, though. You find out it isn't necessarily, you do with all your other chefs. You take in influences from them, and they can bring it to the chef. Should we do this? Should we do that? Or he can ask for ideas, and you find out part of this journey is that he asked other people, and somebody steps up and says, "No, all the deaths." And I love this part. I love that girl. That's her only line, and she delivered that line like a beast. Yeah, and this part, that was my idea. The killing's my idea. And you saw it in her face. And I saw that in her face. And I was like, that would be a weird girl to be like on a date with, because that face that she made, it conveyed that moment. Like she was very proud of this dish that they were serving, which was death. Right. And she was in it when she said, and I don't remember, I'm paraphrasing, but when she goes, no, the death, that was my idea, and very happy about it.
Folks, it's called The Menu. Andy says available on Showtime, or you could get it from Amazon Prime. I give it 4 yo's out of 5 yo's. It's at first you're going, wait, what the fuck? But then once it gets rolling, it's got you. It's got you.
It was very intense. The intensity is cranked up. Yes. I don't know that.
And I love it. It's the slow build.
Yeah.
It's a very slow build, but it's building.
And we didn't give you all the movie. We had to keep a lot out of it, because otherwise then there's nothing for you. You have to see it if you want to get this roller coaster. But again, it's like a roller coaster. It's like really slow, and then they give you a big moment, really slow and give you a big moment, and then the grand finale at the end. But I'm just going to say there's so much detail in this movie that after I was done, I honestly was like, I liked it, but I don't know that I liked it. And I wasn't sure if I was going to recommend it, but I wanted Aries to see it, because I'm really surprised, because I thought the first thing we got is I was going to get one of those. This is one of the Mandy movies. This is a white guy movie. A white guy.
No. It had me. Once it got me, it got me.
So I'm very, and I think that goes to say a lot about it. It's not. This movie is like going to a culinary event, is like going to a chef's driven restaurant.
Except you die.
But in this, it's the experience that you're going to get out of this, and it translates to everyone. I really want to. I know this is going to sound even weirder. I want to see it again, because there's so much detail in this that I know I missed.
No, I plan to see it again,
because it's a detailed movie. It should have been. I would have liked to seen it as a play, because it's a play, but I don't know if you could make the explosions. I'm sure you can, but it's very interesting. I would definitely. It might have been a play. I don't even know. It was just really. I thought it was worth seeing. So I'm glad we brought it up.
Let's switch gears for a second.
Yep.
Something else that's very worth seeing, and this actually came out a second ago, and I think I kind of mentioned it to Andy a little bit, but we never dived into it. Dived into it. And then Andy, when I spoke to him the other day, said he watched it and he loved how good it was. And so I rewatched it. And here we are. There's a documentary on HBO called Say Hey, Willie Mays. It's the Willie Mays documentary. And I'm going to tell you why I was leery on even wanting to talk about it, because I'm not a baseball guy. But for some reason, I don't know why I put my eggs in that basket, thinking that the conversation strictly had to be about the game. Because, yes, there's a part of that can be discussed. But more importantly, his life was so interesting outside the game and even within the game that there's elements to be discussed. Like I said, I watched it the first time and I was leery because I just went, man, I'm not into baseball, so I don't think I'm going to be into this. But I'm into great stories about people and experiences. And certainly, one of my people. So there's a natural attachment that comes with that. And I don't regret having watched it. And my first question or note off the bat is, it's always been said in most media, especially in sports, that Babe Ruth is considered the greatest baseball player of all time. But when you watch this and you let the experts tell it as they're telling it, it's Willie Mays.
Yeah.
So did that sway you? Had you always been one of those people that if they said to you, who's the greatest baseball player of all time, you automatically go Babe Ruth? Or did this sway you into going Willie Mays? Or you never believed Babe Ruth was the greatest?
When I was a little kid, of course, playing baseball as a little kid I was playing in the 70s, was my little league era, for me. And you hear this, you hear everything that's Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, Babe Ruth, when you're growing up. And I mean, that was the collectible card. That was like a big deal card. I mean, I don't know if you weren't into baseball cards or anything. So we were into baseball.
Never.
If you played, you're into baseball cards. Obviously, there's more. There's cards that are worth more than Babe Ruth cards, but those Babe Ruth cards were like a big deal, reissues, and so you had that. But I think the legend, he's the biggest legend in baseball, is Babe Ruth. Because as I got older and I discovered more about baseball, and then you just get out of the fact that's the legend. You realize that there's better players. But Babe Ruth held some records that were amazing at that time. So that's why. And the stories of him being drunk and, that you find out later, this guy's basically shouldn't even been in the batter's box sometimes, he's
right.
And, not to take away from the story of Willie Mays here, as you go back and you look at some of these baseball players in these stories, these guys were drinking, hard alcohol, sometimes
horrible diets,
but and even all the way into the 80s in the clubhouse, these guys are cracking beers in between when they have like double headers. They're drinking beer before they go out on the field. So this is the loosest league that I know of as far as allowing like alcohol, and they're chewing tobacco. What other sport is chewing tobacco and spinning it on the this is a very loose league. So the guys that were never considered like these are not athletes that are the healthiest, and they have a natural ability, but they're not like the athletes that when you think about basketball or football. And even in football, if you're a big lineman, you're not necessarily ripped. It's a different kind of sport, though. Baseball, as we look through it, but Willie Mays is probably the greatest player. The reason I'm hesitant to say the greatest is because of how history has absorbed Black history, and then especially going to the Negro leagues. I don't know that there's better player. There could have been better players in the Negro leagues that we've never that the history did not get put out to the public. So that's my problem with saying he's the best.
And I know this to hardcore baseball fans, what I'm about to say is going to be seen as blasphemous, and maybe I'll even admit obvious ignorance on my part. But when I say I'm not a baseball guy, like in the documentary, when they're comparing Willie Mays to some of the greats, they show footage of Jordan, they show footage of Ali, and they put him in that circle. And I'm a boxing guy. I'm a basketball guy. So when I look at the physicality of Michael Jordan flying through the air, weaving through defenders, I see the grace. I see the beauty. I see the artistry. When I see Ali do the Ali shuffle and he's fucking throwing 15 punches with blazing speed and connecting, and his footwork and his head movement, same thing. I see the artistry. I see the grace. I see the beauty. Physically, I'm going, I don't see the attachment for me with Willie Mays in regards to that. Now, I know the most famous athletic thing they talk about, the footage they show, of course, is the catch.
Yeah, the
when
overhead catch.
Over the shoulder. Over the shoulder. Yep, when he's running towards the back wall and he catches it and then turns it around and fires it back. I feel like I gotta be a baseball guy to understand the importance and the beauty of that, because it just doesn't do for me in comparison what Ali and Jordan does for me.
You would have had to play and have some love for the game, because if you ever played center field, it's the most wide open area. If you look at how it's set up, if you ever watched any baseball, whatever, behind second base is where center field is, and second base is open. The only one keeping center field, like from even a ground ball coming out, is the pitcher, and then you have to have an incredible shortstop that can cover from where he's standing in the middle between third and second base and get over to second base. The second baseman's all the way over, and probably not as fast as the shortstop. So if it's going to go over the base, it's probably the shortstop that's going to grab it, and some, depending on the team. But once even a ground ball gets out there, they got to be able to run in and grab that ball and be able to make a throw either home or to whatever base they're running. This is why, okay, when we were talking about who the greatest is, and I can't say this because he injured himself, but to me, the greatest, what I saw, the greatest ability, the greatest player that should have been and could have been the greatest player ever is Bo Jackson. Because he could play in the field, he could cover the field, he can make throws from the outfield, deep in the outfield, all the way to home plate without even having it to bounce to the he was so strong. And even when you see the plays where he runs up the wall out in the outfield. Mays demonstrated that he was the best. I think that if he didn't injure himself, and the only reason Bo Jackson injured himself, he didn't get injured by another player. He injured himself because of his own strength. He was too strong for his body.
Right, but the person dragging on his leg didn't help.
No, but two things. The way that he ran, most people would have went down when Bo Jackson got hit.
Right, that's right.
And that's what caused the injury.
You're right.
And because he's that fucking strong that he ran out of his body. His body couldn't handle what he could do. And then being that strong and then popping your leg back into place is what actually killed the joint because the blood flow didn't get through. This is a man that is beyond any kind of strength that I could ever fathom, that I can understand. When you can, they say you can lift any amount of weight. It's your body that doesn't allow you to lift it. And when I say that, I mean, we're designed that we should be able to lift it. It's the pain, the strength, your arms, what your joint. That's what keeps you from making it, from being able to lift. This dude lifted out of his body and ran past what his own joint was allowed to be able to handle. So
now that you put it that way, here's where I know I can relate to Bo Jackson. When it comes to sex with women, my dick can't do what my body is intended to try and do. You know what I'm saying? like I intend to tear the uterus out of a bitch, but my dick can't do what my body wants it to do. So therefore, I have a Bo Jackson like injury to my cock.
Okay. No, never mind. I was gonna keep going, and it wasn't gonna get better. It was gonna get much, much worse. So we'll go.
Okay. Something that did you want to make a second point?
No. I want to hear what you put. I have something that I want to get to that I think is important to this conversation.
I think you mentioned this at one point when they talked about how, first pro baseball didn't want black players.
Yeah.
And then once Jackie Robinson kind of set the tone, then pro baseball started poaching the Negro leagues, and they did it without compensation, which ultimately destroyed the Negro leagues. And when I rewatched this and they made that point, I just went, and again, this is one of those things where I say, I'm caught up in the moment. I just feel, boy, white folks, whatever y'all touch, y'all destroy.
Well,
like, Jesus Christ. Not only did you single-handedly destroy the Negro leagues by taking its best players, you didn't even compensate the leagues for the damage you did.
Well, here's the, and I'm glad you got here. This is what I want to talk about. Here's how it plays out. So you made more money in the white league at the time, in baseball. You wanted to play. That's the big, like you said, you want to play in the NBA because it's the biggest in the world. You want to play in that league. You want to show up that league. I'm going to go there. I'm going to destroy these white guys. I'm going to show them how good we are. So you go in, you get Jackie Robinson. This is where, again, when I'm saying, I think Willie Mays is the greatest player. Like, if you want to put it down, Willie Mays, you can say that as of what's been demonstrated, was shown. But Jackie Robinson was not even close to being the best player to be brought out of the Negro Leagues. He was the reason he was the first. Is he was determined to be the one that they thought was going to be able to handle the pressure that was going to be the first black dude in whatever what's it called in baseball. But what is it? What was the league at the time? I don't remember the letters.
Major League Baseball?
Yeah, Major League Baseball. But was it just Major League? Was it MLB at the time?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. He was the first to do that. And so then as they started poaching and taking other players, as you're saying, they were brought in because that's the contracts they wanted. Yes, but they were under contract, so they shouldn't have been able to go. And that should have been done. And this is where I want to tie it into something else. And this is what they say, and they say this in there. It should have been the Negro League should have been absorbed into the National Baseball leagues. Absorbed, and they should have brought some of the owners. That way it would have been true. It would have been true integration, because you would have had the owners, black owners in that league. And the reason I bring that up, not only what they said, but don't forget the ABA in basketball. They were absorbed into the NBA. The difference is all the owners of the ABA, even though the league was thought to be the black league of basketball, the ABA. That was the black league. There were black players. They were playing more street ball, considered more street ball with the dunks and that. That was all ABA. The difference is the owners were white. So they were absorbed into the NBA, the white owners with the black league. That's what the ABA they thought of. That's where Dr. J played. He was using, more what they considered street ball. That's absorbed. White owners. So is it just that it was black owners? Is that the reason that it wasn't absorbed? Or was it because we're talking 70s and we're talking 50s? So that's also 20 years difference. That's after the civil rights movement. Is that part of it? Or is it because solely white owners, black owners?
A little bit of both.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of, I think it's a little bit of both, but a lot of something. Lot of one of them. Because I think today, had that situation been different and it would have been black owners that were owning the ABA leagues, I question whether they would have absorbed the leagues or they would have just disbanded the league, bought the league out, and then did a supplemental draft of the ABA players and brought those guys in.
Something that they said, obviously, and listen, you can't watch this thing given the time period and the history of baseball and racism in America. You can't watch this thing and don't think for 1 second that there aren't going to be discussions of race issues. And of course, the through line is always and they even said it in the doc, when you're special and you're black and you're successful and you bring joy to white America through what you do, somehow in the white mainstream, you are viewed as different while everyone else that's like you is not. And I just went, and there was two parts. One, what I'm about to say, and then two, when they talked about how Willie Mays was trying to buy a nice house in San Francisco, but of course they didn't want to rent to him because he was black.
You didn't want to sell to him.
Sell to him because he was black, my bad. And I swear, this is the strangest ideology to me, that you have the ability as a white person to forget about color, or at least color is not as important to you as long as you're being entertained and being made to feel good from entertainment. But outside of that, like a light switch, you're able to turn that off and go back to bigotry when you're not being amused. That is a weird flex to me. That is a weird muscle that you could be able to go, I'll forget about who you are in terms of your pigmentation and see you as a human being as long as you're bringing joy to me. But when you're done doing that, I'm going to remember what color you are. That's a weird thing to me, man.
I think it's more strategic than that, though. I don't think that I have a problem with Willie Mays living next to me as a white. I'm gonna put the white suit on here, complete.
Yes, because you are. Because I'm going, what could possibly be it then?
I think I don't have a problem with Willie Mays living next to me. But now, how many other black people are you going to bring into the neighborhood? How many other black people are going to come because Willie Mays lives there? How many black people are going to come over and visit him? How many black people are going to be in my neighborhood? It's not Willie Mays.
So you think the person that threw that bottle through his window that they showed was broken? You think that was them going, I don't have a problem with Willie Mays?
No, that person. That's just the racism coming out in the flex of the bottle throwing. I'm talking about the people in the neighborhood who don't stand up and go, bring Willie. No, it's Willie Mays. I want, he has every right to be in our neighborhood. I think that they don't stand up because they're the ones that are afraid of how many. It's not about the one. It's how many come with that one. That's there. I put the white suit on for you. That's the thought process. I'll be real honest, man. This is the only way I can say this. I'll never forget when I lived by the Air Force Base, and we lived, in what is traditionally a white neighborhood. I lived in this area right by the Air Force Base, but there were what surprised me is that there's a lot of Hispanics in that neighborhood because it's the Air Force Base. It's in Tucson, and we got our first black people in the neighborhood live next to me. I've talked about these the guys that moved in next to me, and we were friends. And then a few other black families moved in, and I remember people talking about it being, I don't mind black people, but I don't want to live in a black neighborhood. We're talking about seriously a development that had probably 500 homes, and there's like 3 black families in it, and that's they don't want to live in a black 3 people, and they're already thinking, I got a black neighborhood. Because now other people are coming to see their friends that are black. So black people are driving through the neighborhood. I'm telling you, at that time, this is 70s. It freaks the fuck out of them.
Yeah,
so you don't want, when we go but talk about racism, do you have to be a racist? And then you and Godfrey, and we talked about it, and you keep saying, I forget, and I'm allowed to forget because I'm allowed to forget. It's not the overt racism that white people have. It's that undercover racism that they're not. I'm not saying that they're not aware, but I know some of these people aren't even aware of what they're frightened of what they're thinking. They don't bring it to their attention that this is racism. I don't know how many black people. I don't know 3 families. Now you're worried about living in a black neighborhood when there's 500 homes. That's the mentality.
I like even more so though the fact that the guy said it was important for Willie Mays not to just be able to live in that neighborhood because he had the right to live in the neighborhood, but it also opened up the door for, as you say, further black people to live in that neighborhood who aren't Willie Mays.
Right. Well,
once he's allowed to, I don't want to say allow, fuck that, but once he
breaks
lives
the
in
barrier.
Once he breaks the barrier.
Chris Rock's joke about it rings true. And when was that? When was that joke? 90s, 2000s? The joke about he's the neighborhood he lives in. He describes the black people who live in his neighborhood.
Right. Mary J. Blige, an award-winning, Grammy-winning recording artist. Patrick Ewing, an NBA All-Star Hall of Famer. And myself, a top-notch, world-class comedian. He goes, the white guy that lives next to me is a dentist.
So it's not like this is. So when I go back and forth on this conversation with you, I don't believe that white people, when presented the facts, the actual thing will go, oh, I wouldn't do that because that would make me, I'm not racist, but they are, because they hold racist ideals, not even realizing to themselves, not admitting to themselves that it is a racist ideal of not wanting your neighbor to be black because that comes with other black people. That's a fucked up idea. And and I saw it in my life, in my lifetime. I watched it in real time. I watched people talk about it. I watched someone in my family say it. So I can't deny certain things that are obvious, and that's an obvious one. But the other part of it, the irony of that, where this is in San Francisco. This are the people that are supposed to be all. But even
Barry Bonds alluded to that. This is supposed to be one of the most liberal, open places, in the country at that time.
Yeah.
Let me jump to something Bob Costas said when he's going and speaking about Willie Mays trying to buy a home in San Francisco, and Costas says, despite so much racism, Willie faced, but between his athletic excellence and natural joy he brought to baseball, no matter how much racism he faced, he eventually won people over. And again, this is where I'm going. I'm having a moment. I'm going, white arrogance never ceases to amaze me. The idea that someone could go, hey, you black guy that's never done anything to me, doesn't have a criminal record or a history of violence, win me over. Convince me, the person who comes from a race with a history filled with so much violence and hatred, win me over. That's so arrogant to me.
Well, here's the other part of the arrogance too, which I think is really funny because you have to put it together.
Make me feel comfortable. When all we've ever done is make y'all feel uncomfortable.
And here's the other, and that's exactly it, what you just said right there. You look at it from the one perspective, which is make me feel comfortable, right? And then a black person says the same thing about white people. When you and you see it all the time on your posts. Why are you racist? You're just saying you're saying exactly the same thing that a white person says. When you said, well, when any time that you bring up race and what has happened to blacks in America, and you reflect that same thing of why you have distrust, that's called, they try to interpret that as racism.
The fact that he's got to win you over to make you feel comfortable and treat him decently.
But black people aren't expected to be won over. That's what I mean when they say you're being racist by saying these things. No, I've experienced this. I've seen it. We have history of this. And you don't want to make me feel comfortable. You want to let me sit here in this. And if I say anything now, you're experiencing my racism. That's why it's so hypocritical. And I do understand you and Godfrey's point more and more. I don't believe it's. I want to say this the right way. There's no right way of saying it. Unfortunately, I think, but it is true. You are correct. I don't think it's predetermined that it stays this way. And I don't think that a lot of white people are aware that they're sitting in this bias and not realizing it. And they need to be made aware. They need to be made aware of it. And I think that would change rapidly if they ever were made aware that saying something to you like that's a racist. You're why are you saying that? You're causing more racism. No, I need to feel comfortable because you have made me feel uncomfortable for years. And now you just want me to go, okay, well, it's good now.
Right.
You know, when someone's sick, let's say they had the flu and then they feel better and they go out and you say to someone, oh, I had the flu yesterday. What is your first thing? Ooh, is it over? Is it gone? Are you sure? I don't want to get your flu. Positive? Maybe we should meet up next week.
Right.
That's the flu. But with racism, I'm not racist anymore. Like, we've changed. It's over. Is it? Well, take a couple days. Feel good about it. Let me see that you're okay. That part is disrespectful to white people. Like, we have to, like, they can't be challenged on their not being racist. Yeah, you should have to be challenged. If black people had to win you over for the last 100 years, why aren't you having to spend 5 minutes winning a black person over and making sure so that they feel comfortable? I don't get it. I don't. I'm understanding. I'm trying to understand it in a different way, and it was hard for me to see that. But I just have to read. I have to just read what people comment to you on your posts that I think are funny, and you're doing it with humor, and they're still not understanding it.
Let me ask you this, and this is like kind of really my last note. Like Willie Mays and Jackie Robinson and Joe Louis, where would you place them legacy-wise, since they were the athletes, and I hate to say this like this, but either who chose or who knew how important it was to just shut up and play? Unlike the guys like Jim Brown, Ali, Kareem, Bill Russell. In order for them to set the table for the rebellious, more outspoken athletes, meaning Jackie, Willie Mays, and Joe Louis, they had to exist first to set the tone for the athlete that was to come. Silence was the tone. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. So what do you
like? Because we look at Ali and Kareem and Jim and Russell in such reverence for not only who they were as athletes, but what they stood for as men during the time. Whereas, you know, they've alluded to in a lot of these documentaries with Jackie Robinson and Willie and Joe Louis, they didn't speak out. They were quiet. And what we just said, their silence allowed them to be accepted more easily or more palatable to white America, white mainstream America. But it's almost like they took the hit for the guys that would later come so they could be rebellious.
Yeah. I think you have to have both. But yes, you have to have someone that walks into the door and gets through, opens up the door. This is why, you know, and you brought that up in a way so someone could be rebellious, but some people felt that way. George Foreman went to the Olympics as an American, and he represented it as an American. Now, he does have his value system and who he is as a black man in America, but when he was at the Olympics, they didn't want him to hold up those little American flags because he was being oppressed. But he went there as an American, and so he held up those little flags. That was part of his thing with Ali, where people, why he was not as liked as Ali. So
right.
There's also that aspect of it too. But I think all those aspects are needed, because why are blacks any different than whites when we have all different? Well, let me rephrase that, because they were quiet because they had to be in order to get the foot in the door, in order to let the other people through. But there is what I'm trying to get to is everyone has their opinion and how they fit into it and how they want to fight the fight, or how they want to move the needle, whatever words you want to use to overcome things. Everyone has their own destiny. It's unfortunate that I think someone like Jackie Robinson, who took so much shit, wasn't allowed to speak up or defend himself in any way whatsoever. And so for someone like that, how do you not have the highest esteem for him? Because I think it hurts much more to keep that in you than it does to fucking throw a punch at someone or to say what you want to say. That has to hurt more. That has to be more painful. That has to hurt you inside every night when you go to sleep. Because I know when there's things that I wish I would have said as a comic. I wish I would have said this, or that can live with me for a few weeks, maybe months, that I should have said this. I should have went after that guy this way. I should have done it this way. And that's comedy. This is who you are. This is your life, your kids, they didn't say just, this is the other thing. They didn't say just things about Jackie Robinson. They said them about him, his wife, his family. How do you go to sleep at night?
Right.
I have, how do you not hold him in that high regard? But is he better? Was Jackie Robinson better than Willie Mays? No. But his whatever they saw, and then here's the other part though, and this is why I don't like talking about this so much, especially as a white guy on this podcast. Whatever they saw in him that he could be quiet. How do you say that? Think about that. As I'm a white guy, I do want integration in the league, right? Branch Rickey wanted integration into Major League Baseball. He went out. He stuck his neck out to do what was right. But now he's interviewing to see who can I keep quiet? Who can best do this? That's a hell of a thing to say, to put that as a white guy. When you're you're doing the best that you can, maybe at that time. But how do you do that? I got to find the black guy, not just the black guy who's great at baseball, but the one that's going to be quiet, the one, and I hate to say this, the one that I have control, that will be more easy to control.
Right.
That's a hell of a thing to have to say, to have to think. And when you think about it that way, it's very uncomfortable.
All right, folks, it's called Say Hey, Willie Mays.
It's a great doc, man.
It really is.
But beyond baseball, but it's just even on the baseball. If you have love for baseball, it's great.
Yeah. Okay. There it is.
You want some dates?
Yeah. Did you get the new list?
Yeah, I got the new list. I got to talk to you about that list because there's something on there. They duplicated something, but.
Oh, really?
And then they duplicated something else. But let me I'm going to pull up the list so that I can actually give that out. Dun 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 dun. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to this. We're in Toledo. I'm not 100% that I'm joining, but it looks like I'm joining.
Yeah, I think we're going to make it happen.
Well, I'm joining the Toledo crew. That's going to be January 27th to the 29th. They've added a Sunday show. I think that do you have a few left on Friday too?
We added a second show on Friday, which I think is most likely going to sell out.
I thought it was almost sold out. Yeah, so that's the late shows.
I think both shows Saturday are sold out, and then we added a Sunday.
So Sunday is where you can probably get tickets easily, but there might be a few Friday late nights. February 4th, one night only, 2 shows at the Regent Theater in Arlington, Mass. So check that one out. It's a theater show. This is my first time doing a theater show with you, I think.
Yes.
So, excited. February 10th and 11th, we're going to be at the Funny Bone in Virginia Beach. Back out in Virginia Beach, Funny Bone. February 17th through the 18th, Funny Bone in Albany, New York. February 24th to the 25th, we'll be at the Improv in Denver, Colorado. I'm excited about that. We got some added bonuses for the podcast for that weekend. March 3rd through the 4th, we're going to be at Cincinnati, Funny Bone in Liberty Township, Ohio. March 10th to the 11th, we're going to be at Syracuse in New York, Funny Bone. And the last one date that I'll give out 2 more. March 17th and 18th, the Funny Bone in Omaha. And March 30th.
Oh, shit, we got Omaha?
Yeah, Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, wow.
March 30th through April 2nd, we're back at Laugh Out Loud in San Antonio, Texas.
And that's that?
I gave it through March. That's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
If you want to see all the new updates, please go check out ArieSpears.com and you can find out all the dates on Arie Spears.
Well, there it is, folks. We gave it to you. Hope you enjoy the menu. Again, available on Showtime or Amazon Prime, and of course, HBO, HBO Max, HBO On Demand. Say Hey, Willie Mays. There it is, baby.
Spears and Steinberg.
Thanks for listening to the Spears and Steinberg podcast. If you'd like to know who's responsible for this shit, it was hosted by Arie Spears and Andy Steinberg, produced by Steve Merrick and Anthony Holmes, executive producer, Big Papa, Robert Kelly, and Matt Kleinschmidt for the Laugh Button podcast. For more information on where to find us on the internet, visit SpearsburgPod.com.